I want to bring in California Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia, who's a member of the House Oversight Committee and part of its subcommittee on military and foreign affairs. It's good to have you back on the program. And I think, you know, when you look at that statement from the Illinois senators, these raids are being presented in a way most Americans support, which is, to be very simple, get the bad guys out. But do you have concerns beyond that?
Of course. I mean, look, first, I think everyone can agree. Democrats, Republicans, I think all good people believe that if you're here, you're causing crimes. You're obviously doing harm to our country, to our people. You shouldn't be in this country. Everyone agrees with that. But that's not what this is. This is empowering ICE to go into our public schools, into our churches, into places where people should feel safe. And people are going to get swept up who are dreamers, who are just here working in our restaurants, taking care of our kids, working in our small businesses. And that, I think, should concern all of us. This is an inhumane approach and process that Donald Trump is putting out there. One, because he could care less about immigrants and the history of migrants in this country, but also because of the cruelty. He wants to put also a show on, as we've seen with his actions with Colombia, with tariffs. He wants this to be a spectacle. And what's really, I think, really should enrage us and should be sadden and anger us is the fact that Donald Trump could care less about people as human beings. He wants to round people up, deport them. He could care less who gets deported. And I think that's what concerns a lot of us in Congress, but should concern every single American.
Well, we have heard reports about kids not going to school. We've heard about people not going to work, people afraid to leave their homes. But I want to play what Vice President J.D. Vance said about the impact of these raids.
We empowered law enforcement to enforce the law everywhere to protect Americans.
A chilling effect, arguably, to people to not send their kids to school.
I desperately hope it has a chilling effect on illegal immigrants coming into our country.
So what are Democrats, what are people in your position saying to immigrants who may even, frankly, be here with documentation or believe, you know, as the Venezuelan woman, she went on the app, she came in, but just don't know what to expect under this new administration? What do you tell them?
I mean, first, what the vice president said was both un-American and un-Christian and completely shameful and cruel. Look, let me just add, Chris, I came to this country. I've been undocumented before. I came to the U.S. as a young kid. You know, I have been through this process. My family and I worked incredibly hard to become U.S. citizens, to earn citizenship. We just wanted to be here to give back to this country. The great honor of serving in Congress right now. Immigrants are patriotic people who love this country and who want to get back. And yes, like any group, there are going to be people that shouldn't be here, that are committing crimes. That is true from all groups. But as we know, a vast majority of people that are here to work and to give back. And to parents who are scared about taking their kids to school, I think we understand, and I understand personally very much so, how frightening that is. Schools should be safe places. I encourage folks to connect with their places of worship, with their schools, with their teachers. A vast majority of public servants and people that are out there want to help and provide good information. And all people should know, immigrants included, they have rights. Especially if you were here as a dreamer on DACA, you have a work permit, you have rights, and you don't have to give the authorities immediate information. Contact your local school, contact your workplace, contact your local church, and understand what your rights are, whether you have documentation or not. I think it's turning ICE into some sort of horrific Gestapo force, some sort of force that's going to go out there and terrorize and dehumanize people, I think is really sick.
So if you help people understand what their rights are, then is that any kind of guarantee that those rights will be respected?
Well, I think we've got to be realistic that I don't think Donald Trump is going to or cares about respecting the laws or the rights. He's a criminal himself. He could care less about our Constitution. He could care less that if you're born in the United States, of course, we know that you are a U.S. citizen. He wants to take that away and could care less about that. So, no, we shouldn't expect Donald Trump to follow all the rights and rules. But I do believe there are a lot of good people in this country, especially in our education system, especially at our cities and local jurisdictions, that actually will provide protection and good information. People
so
should
let me
know
ask
that a
you
vast
something, because
majority
I'm running
are here.
short on time, Congressman, understanding what you're saying. I want to read to you something that Bret Stephens wrote in the New York Times. He says, Trump may be a very blunt instrument, but we're a country in need of disruption. The important conversation we should have now is how to disrupt wisely, not how to defend norms for norm's sake in the face of Trump's norm bending. You know, you've lived it. Immigration is a conversation that has been going on for decades, if not generations, without a solution. Is there a way for you and your colleagues who understand this deeply, personally, as well as politically, to help Republicans, in Bret's words, disrupt wisely?
I mean, look, Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump wants to do anything but be cruel and inhumane and deport everybody he can. So I don't think Republicans are interested in actually helping people. There are ways to actually solve this challenge. Democrats also want a secure border. We also want to ensure that there's a process at the border that is humane, that is legal, that there are rights that people have, that there are enough immigration judges out there to actually process these cases. And we should have work permits. We should have a strong visa program. We should have immigration reform that actually encourages folks to go through a process so they can earn citizenship, earn residency if they're eligible. And yes, if you're a criminal in this country, whether you're a non-citizen or not, you should absolutely not be here. We can all agree on all of that, but Donald Trump doesn't want any of that. He wants to put on a show. He wants to be a strongman authoritarian, and he has no respect for immigrants, which is odd, by the way, considering his own family history and the contributions we have made. And so we're going to have to really fight, work with people, and protect people over the next few years.